I shall begin. And the most important thing on the agenda is this Mass DEP technical assistance grant. We're expecting really, really, really big things.
I'm excited to jump into it.
I'm excited that you guys are jumping in. We've been swamped with data and, you know, trying to put together spreadsheets with comparisons of contracts and then the language alone, you know, from one contract to another. I forget some of the words that we saw that were one thing and then another, you know what I'm saying? Like, even in our own contract, we have provisions that other towns don't seem to have. So we're just really kind of blown away a lot further than we thought we would. But we started this, we thought, oh, how hard can this be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
An endless rabbit hole, a little bit of.
It feels, yes, it feels like we just keep, digging deeper and that we've got to stop at some point or else we will not be ready to get a new contract.
Yeah, well, I'm confident that we'll be able to come up with a really good game plan.
Yes,
Can we back up and just introduce everybody?
yes, let's go.
I'm Stephanie. I'm a layperson, town's, I don't know, what do I want to say?
Extraordinaire.
I'm a member of the people. I mean, I'm not a select board member. I'm not a
But she's on the trash committee.
Okay.
trash committee. I'm a conservation commissioner and
Yes. And I'm Kathy Kester Nelson. I'm a chair of the select board, but I'm also the chair of this trash and recycling committee.
Okay,
And
I'm Rebecca Oldham, I'm the town administrator,
okay.
so we'll be working closely. Nice to
Lovely.
officially meet you.
Right back at you,
And-
beyond just email.
Dave Greenbaum, I'm the chair of the Board of Health.
Beautiful, nice to
Right.
meet you as well.
and our finance board representative is not here tonight, Bill O'Neill, but Jan, who was our other person, is going to be zooming in.
Should I text her?
You can send her a text.
Yeah, so we have like two like residents, then we wanted the board of health rep, select board rep, finance board rep. We stopped at 5 as the voting members, because just getting people together is sometimes tricky. Yes,
My name's, Ron Cochran. I'm with Mass DEP. I'm a regional planner. That's my job title. I'm also a municipal assistance coordinator for a different region. Brian covers you in Northeast District 2. I have Northeast District 1, which is 4 other cities. But I'm also the grant manager for the Pay As You Throw grant that we offer at Mass DEP.
okay,
Nice.
okay, good to know.
Yep, and I'm Brian Walsh. So yeah, I'm like Ron said, I'm the new MAC Municipal Assistance Coordinator for Northeast District 2. And yeah, so I'm a month into the role now, but my background is in waste and recycling, more on the private side. But it's so making this fun transition to the municipal side. So I'm excited to dive into these. Like we're talking about the fun worlds of contract. Luckily, I do have some experience with contracting. More, like I said, more on the private side, but I know it can be a lot. And every line seems like it has like, oh my gosh, that's actually really important, even
Yeah.
if it's such a small line. Like
Yeah.
Right,
on page 85, like.
right. So we really do want like to narrow down all the things we're trying to look at the same time and to come back to I would think at least 2 proposals. I mean, I don't think we could have one that we favor the most, but I think when it goes back to the board, they're gonna want to know, well, what's another choice, you know? I mean, just I know my board members. And I don't blame them. I would ask the same question, what else is there to do? So if we vote as a committee to favor one outline of what we're gonna go out for, I think we're gonna go out for information on instead of like a bid. We're gonna go for information more.
So let's back up just slightly. So
Yeah.
our contract with Waste Management is set to expire, not this fiscal year and not the next fiscal year, but the following for FY 27. So we created this group to take a closer look at our contract and figure out what we need to do moving forward, potentially going out to bid. Through that process and through meeting with the Northeast Hauler group, working group, and just talking with other communities, we have tried to look at different ways that we could incorporate different aspects into our contract. whether or not we allow for the 2-barrel minimum, the overflow, pay as you throw, and any other types of mechanisms that we could incorporate to make our contract better for our residents. So that led us to work with Mass DEP and figure out whether or not we could get some more information as to how we can go about our contract preparations and getting a proposal together, whether it be an RFP or whether or not a P or B, IFB or an RP, or whether or not we do just a request for information, and all of that. But and backing up, one of the things that we had talked about is that the price of the contract is kind of unknown, and where we don't have an automated system and we're struggling with enforcement of our current contract, we started to talk a lot about pay as you throw. So that's why we applied for the pay as you throw technical assistance grant, so that we can get more information as to what that kind of looks like and what we could do to potentially incorporate that in our request for proposals, IFB, or request for information. That's kind of where we are. So I don't know, just to kind of bring it full circle.
Yeah,
I can summarize to what we offer in terms of a grant. So in other words, almost like the what you got yourself into with us
right.
discussion.
Because I don't think our tonnage is trending down.
Yeah, you were even year to year, you're trending up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, we were, we had these high hopes of the 2-barrel limit getting to just cooperate, and it's rapidly going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, well, it's
The tonnage, yeah, it's just,
It's
yeah.
an interesting, like, that we live in the sense of even doing nothing, like, people just consume it, and like, people just consuming more.
Mhm.
So that's also have to, any like waste reduction strategies also just have to kind of be combating this idea that people are just also just buying more products a lot of the time, year over year, and that's a trend that just kind of grows. So like sometimes it's staying even in some ways is a win, is a
Okay.
win, but like
Yeah.
obviously the goal is, but I think the other lens is that even requires a little bit more effort, like pay as you throw programs and all of these things, because you are combating this headwind of rising consumption as of town.
I think it's probably summarized to kind of what we offer, I think it helps just paint the picture.
Okay.
So let's talk about the two grants that are in play here. The first one is one that you've applied for and received already,
Yep.
which is for technical assistance. So what that is it gives you the ability to work with municipal assistance coordinators for 80 hours of in-kind technical assistance. So
Okay.
normally the day-to-day operation, we do a bunch of other stuff. You got this grant awarded, which means it's kind of like, consider me and Brian half and half right now, but it's really mostly Brian's time. And that is to do things like give you information, chase down numbers for you, try to help you poke holes in these questions that you have. So like, we're already kind of in it, we're already giving you technical assistance, and I think it's great. Other thing I was gonna say is I'm commending you guys because you're so far ahead of most of the municipalities that are out there. You formed a committee. That's one thing. No, but seriously, I mean, you guys are a small town. And you said, you know what, we're so small, let's just give it to our town, handle the whole thing. No, but you did, you're getting you have a cross-functional team, you're representing the different areas. You're also coming to us, which some towns don't even do. We have the knowledge of all the data, right? So the way that we know a lot of this stuff is because each and every year we incentivize through grant funds to get data from all 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts. So we see the trends as a bigger role. Then all of a sudden you guys have this enormous task, which is like, oh my God, I need to renegotiate my trash contract. Nobody ever wants to do that. So what we do is we try to give you support, knowing that you probably don't know really what you're doing in that vein. I mean, you probably negotiate other contracts, I'm sure, but in this particular instance, there's so many nuances. And so the other thing, and this is commending what Rebecca committed to, is that she put it on Groveland on the map for this subgroup that Brian, myself, and another municipal assistance coordinator run, and that's called the Northeast Hauling Best Practices Group.
Right, yeah.
And so we meet once a month, and it's a real intense meeting where we're like digging into everybody's contract. It's like it's like a master's degree study class for
Yeah.
contracting. It's all the boring stuff that nobody wants to get into. But like, you can discuss openly in that group and not have to go to the, go into the Fox to ask what to do with the chicken coop.
Exactly.
So, we're on the other side of the equation. So that's what we do. We try to give you that safe haven to ask your questions, feel safe. We don't record the meeting. We don't allow any vendors in there. And we just straight up talk about stuff that, like, we were even in a meeting today talking about, blended value, recycling and all this like boring stuff that means, millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run.
Mhm.
So
Right.
anyway, that's all to say, great job and you're on the right track. So don't
Thank you,
think you're
Rebecca.
so far behind. You're really not. You're in it. And you're also in the 2-year window that we recommend for you to start really thinking about it. Now, with that said, it is also really advantageous to think about your trash program, which is one thing, and your contract, which is another, and join them together. Because there's huge advantages. What I mean is this, so you have your ordinances and your laws and your rules that talk about how trash needs to be thrown out.
Right.
And then you have your contract, right? So usually what happens when you have a contract, the vendor comes in and goes, okay, guys, what do you do? What's your rules? What do you want us to do? And then usually you codify that in a contract, we pick up once a week, you
Yeah.
reject if you see this, you pick up if you see this, you do that, right? So usually, vendors they come on board, they kind of do whatever you want them to do. But you have an ability now to look freshly at this
Right.
stuff and tell the hauler, hey, we're doing it a new way.
Right.
This is the way things are gonna go from now on. And then you can get, and I don't mean one particular hauler, you can advertise what you want to do and get the best hauler that meets what you want to do. Because what we found is there's the other way around. It's the tail wagging the dog sometimes where haulers will come in and they'll kind of like strut in. They'll say, listen, we know, this is what we do. We collect automated. We're going to send 2 trucks in here, take it or leave it, and we find that the best deals come when you've assembled a really good program first and then gone out and do your request for proposals. So you're really doing, this timing is really good,
If we wanted to try to incorporate a choice for curbside composting pickup and offer a discount, and the discount would have to come through, I think, the electric bill in town. That's the only bill everybody gets.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is
Yeah.
other diversion techniques, right?
Right,
Ways to
right.
keep things out of.
Right, because right now it costs money, 'cause I'm doing it because I want to see how this thing works.
Yeah.
And I'm not a real green person, so I'm running into little troubles here and there with the composting, leaking a little. My husband's been a tiny bit upset, but I'm working on it. But I wanted to see what's it like
Mhm.
for just a person that doesn't think about this, doesn't know how to compost, so I don't want it in my yard. And how much is it costing me to do it per month? So how can I get that, offset? So I'm not actually, so it's a wash for me. Which is, I think that's what most people would look for, like at least a wash. And then the town would save on the tonnage, because I know from rolling my trash can out now, it weighs so much less. It's like ridiculously less.
Yeah.
Much different than
So
what
do
I
people
thought.
discount for diversion?
Yes, some towns do like
Okay.
a but water, everybody's not on town water. So in our town, it would have
Right.
to be something that everybody gets, or a tax bill or electric bill,
Okay,
right? Unless you're gonna do something other that's more complicated. I mean, I'm trying to think of the simplest way
Yeah, so
to offer an incentive.
this kind of thing is entirely up to you. This is
Yeah.
what I talk about when we were saying designing your program. Because this is something you feel like you want to take on now, then you could write it into the contract that food waste diversion is. Now, I will say, it's not common. We don't see it as, usually it's a walk before you run kind of thing. And what
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of cities and towns do is first get their the one that's the biggest bang for the buck that Mass DEP sees is the pay-as-you-throw program.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's up to a 30% difference, you know, in terms of your total tonnage.
Yeah.
So it's the single biggest one, and it also has probably the biggest impact politically too, right? It's the one that's like, whoa, we used to do it one way, now we really do it a different way.
Right,
So what we've seen is other tactics for waste diversion generally work as like add-ons.
add-ons to that, okay.
You know, like, so we offer pilot program grant funding, like I live in Malden, we do we give you the bin for free and then you subscribe on your own, and that's DEP funded. But we look at those as kind of after.
Yep,
the
okay.
fact. Some other things, there are, and this is what Brian is gonna
Yeah,
be great
yeah.
for, is like, that's his job, is to go to you guys and go, hey, what are you doing for waste of, let's get that tonnage down. What are you guys doing? You know,
Yes.
let's do this and
So
this.
when you go to the page with the bag, right? The diversion is into the recycling.
Correct.
Okay, so on our current contract, it doesn't save us anything, I think, basically. That's how bad our contract, yeah.
What are your, what's
We
your,
have like a processing fee of what, 105 per ton? It's bad. And then if we ever make any money, we only get 50% of that, but that's not happening. We're paying on top of that. On top of the processing fee, then we're also paying. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's not a great deal, yeah.
No, it's the worst that we've had ever, you know.
That's
so-
that can turn around though. We just were on a meeting today talking about that. I mean, maybe why don't you tell them how like,
Yeah, that's definitely one where I think it's actually one of the more advantageous reasons of being in like the group, because that's one where if you have one person that just doesn't really know what they're doing with the waste contract and just talking to any waste hauler,
Mhm.
they're like, this town's not gonna talk to me about
yeah.
blended value share.
Right, right.
Sign right here. And then those are the kind of like, so I think those are the ones where.
That's what we're afraid of.
Being in a group like that is like, hey, we're gonna talk about
Yeah.
blended value and like, no, put this in your RFP, and now these haulers, when they're getting that RFP. And they're seeing, oh, this is what you're looking for, and this is what I just put out as a municipality to all these other towns, they know, oh, I can't really get away with giving this town a bid. Where I'm taking 100% of the value and not sharing revenue at all. So hopefully the bidding process is something that would definitely work towards creating more advantageous, at least in some way,
Mhm.
Okay.
balance when it comes to like revenue share. Yeah, like Ron said, we were just actually talking about that.
Yeah, what we see is you've got a processing fee. And then
Yes,
recycling has a commodity value.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't realize this. There's actually publicly listed data. It's this recycling markets, which we're gonna recommend that you join. And basically you get a listed value of like, this is how much glass is per ton, this is how much tin cans are, this is how much paper is. And what you do is when you look at your contract, they'll say to you, the hauler, whoever wins the contract will say, we will refund you or rebate you what we get back in selling these commodities. And what we've seen some haulers do, and it sounds like you guys are in this situation where they're like, oh, don't worry about it, but they're kind of double dipping because they're getting the fee to haul and they're getting the value of
Right.
the commodity.
Yep.
So no
Right.
more of that. We're gonna do better next contract.
right.
But that will help. That definitely helps mitigate it, but it is definitely always gonna be less expensive than trash. Trash is always gonna be proportional.
Okay, except for the contract one right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay,
Yeah.
so,
Well, even that I'm still, that's definitely something I'll follow up on, is like taking a look at that, your contract now, because I'd be even surprised, like,
we're at $90 a ton for trash.
you're $90 a ton. for
So we're
trash.
at like but then there's like the charges, the initial company fee is 110 per delivered ton, then the initial residue fee of 90 per
The
delivered ton.
residue fee I haven't seen
Excess
on a bill yet.
contamination fee of 225.
That's
And
not on
then
any
each
bill.
individual one of those fees is set to increase by 3% on July 1st and then every year.
Right,
after.
but when I sat and recreated the bills, that was the only way I could figure out how to understand, when I
Yeah,
had the
yeah.
contract, I was just.
I do the same thing, yeah.
And it's,
I only saw the processing fee, that 50% of the blended value thing that we never get. We got it, I think, years ago.
Usually
And
it's
now it's not even 50%, it's the whole charge. So it's a complete charge of whatever it costs them,
Yeah.
plus the $100 a ton, I think, for the, yeah, right? So are we paying about the same amount for recycling tonnage and trash trash tonnage is a little bit less cost? That's what I'm afraid of. I think that's where we are right now.
Yeah, it's not gonna be that way. And the other thing too is it's not a 1-for-1 ratio where when you start to lower your fees in, I'm sorry, when you start to lower your tonnage, it's not like, oh, 10 pounds came out of your trash and now 10 pounds are in the recycling. What we find is it just changes the behavior in general. People
Okay.
find different ways to get rid of things, like they do things like what you're doing. They, maybe I'm gonna go to food waste. Maybe I'm not gonna be as, I'm gonna be really mindful. And it's that small amount of money
Right.
that makes people just think a little bit about what they're throwing out. And that's what kind of that whole mindset is what winds up changing in the long run. But
Okay,
in a better contract, it's not gonna, you're not gonna be paying more for recycling than you are for trash. It's always gonna help. And you're gonna get a fee. Now, again, this is what pay as you throw. The concept is it's trying to look at trash as a unit-based transaction, like a utility, as opposed to, hey, whatever you guys can throw at us. Yeah, and so, yeah, so yes, your recycling tonnage goes up, things like that, but as you're already good recyclers, which means on a new contract, you're probably gonna get good rebate values because you're probably gonna be giving them a good product to go out onto the market. So, that actually supports, you're gonna head in the right direction. Overall, you're gonna reduce your fees, your tonnage, you will do better. It's impossible not to do better with that page you throw that,
so assuming we'll do better on the recycling side of it, no matter what we do. Would we go to a 90, is it 95 gallons for recycling?
I thought we were gonna do the 60. Are we doing 90? Because it's Q 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, is that what you just said?
Well, that's what some towns have looked at, because
it's cheaper.
Recycling every other week
Yeah.
and using the bigger bin.
Some do that, yeah.
I mean, if we-
Be small enough, but that's the kind of thing we would help you decide through.
Right, and that way
Oh,
people
good.
wouldn't be rolling 2 bins out every week, because
Yep.
there's gonna be some pushback against rolling these 2 bigger bins out. I
Yeah.
guarantee you that.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be
It's gonna be
a
pushback
pushback of
period.
like, well, we're already paying our taxes, why don't you just pick up our trash?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's all I want you to do, just pick up my.
They don't
trash.
wanna worry about anything else. I
Right.
think the pay as you throw is,
But,
Think it's
More money. yes.
Yeah, it's common. I mean, I will say that you cannot insulate yourself from criticism. It's just gonna be, somebody will have a problem with every part of this.
Just
Right.
need the answers.
Yeah.
To provide.
But we have 150 other cities and towns that have a pay-as-you-throw model, so it's not like this thing's coming out of left field and all of a sudden, hey, what are you trying to do, gouge us,
Exactly.
it's a known technique that's out there. It's very popular.
right,
It's getting more popular, and it really is the only way to have 100% accountability of what you throw out. Because ultimately, down the road, we're running out of landfill space. We don't have, the capacity in Massachusetts. We ship a huge amount of our tonnage out of state.
Mhm.
Not that that's all, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
But getting out in front of this means that if you have a fee setting, it means that whatever happens, you always have control over your outcomes. Because if it's a $3 fee per bag now, and then down the road, everything raises up, you can raise the fee if you need to, and that's, by the way, that's the kind of thing we would help you with, like, what's the right way to price a bag?
Okay,
When can we raise a price, all that kind of thing. We've done this a million times.
That's a good point with like the unpredictability of like the pricing in general over the years of the market is who knows what disposal fees on the haul, and I think an added push for the importance of waste reduction is you're paying $90 now. Hopefully like stay similar in like this contract state, but who knows, like 5, 10, 20 years as landfill space decreases and it's more expensive for these haulers to dispose. Who knows what who knows what that number becomes? That's a good price generally, even if $120 becomes the average, like if disposal fees keep growing over time, it becomes increasingly advantageous to have more control over your, or have programs in place that limit waste per household and, so yeah, I think that's only a trend that's probably going to grow.
Oh, yeah,
is
for sure.
The benefit, how beneficial it is to, as a community, generate less waste.
Now, when you introduce the pay as you throw, so this is where, you know, in order to counteract the double dipping argument, you know, what I've said is that we're only gonna be able to collect as much money as the contract costs, and if we're already collecting part of it through the bag fee, well, we're not gonna charge it again in the taxes, right?
It depends. I mean, it depends on how you have it set up. Do you have an enterprise fund for the trash?
Not yet,
So it's all part of the general fund?
part of the general fund, so I've heard that said, that
Yeah.
was said, so you're thinking, would the enterprise fund take? Would it be the whole trash contract or just the pay-as-you-throw part of it?
Some people do just they do just the servicing out of the general fund and then they do pay as you throw out of a revolving
So
fund.
the haul, when you say the servicing, you mean just the hauling?
Like the basic contract price, like the annual, the base price, essentially, the
Not tonnage price.
Correct. So it'd be like most contracts have a base price and then they have a per ton price that's variable. So the fixed.
Right, right, the monthly pickup.
Yep, the fixed stuff sometimes stays in the general.
Okay,
And then sometimes you put the other one in the revolve, but that's really just strategic. That's for you guys to decide what's the most advantageous. But
okay,
I would caution against trying to build in some expectation of relief on one end, because I don't know that you'd be able to get it. I really don't think, I think it's better to look at it like we're drowning, our fees are going up. We need to mitigate this in some way, you know?
correct.
So-
I'm not trying to lower the taxes. What I'm trying to explain is we are not gonna collect the amount of the trash contract right now that we're collecting right now, and then collect all these bag fees on top of it, because we wouldn't be able to pay all that money to the trash. Do you know what I mean?
I guess I
We can only.
misunderstood. I thought you were.
pay the Cost one time, whether we pay it here or pay it here. So maybe you would have the first year, if you were being conservative on estimating the amount collected to the bags, maybe a little more would wash out to free cash, but we're not allowed to double collect for a service because we're not a profit-making enterprise.
And the confusion is the fact that regardless, you have a hauling contract, so you are paying, like you said, a fixed fee to a
Yes.
company for their overhead costs in order to provide the pickup and whatnot. Then you have your disposal piece of
Right.
it, which is the tonnage, which is based upon the consumer consumption. So I mean, there's two separate things. I mean, the pay as you go is only going to offset the tonnage charges that you're paying for, not necessarily the lump sum that you're
Right.
for paying for the
Oh, it's
contract.
not a money making thing. Like, that's what we
No,
try
no.
to tell people.
I know.
Pay as you throw is not a way to balance your budget.
No.
It's not at all. It's
Not
just
at all.
offsetting tonnage,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, here's what happens. You get, as your recycling grows and your fees lower, we actually warn against relying on it because naturally, when your tonnage comes down, less people are buying bags. So you
Okay.
can't actually count on that bag revenue anymore.
Did you pay anything fixed?
Exactly. It's
Can you
really
say that
just
one more
offset.
time? Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So it's saying that you keep looking at pay as you throw as a way to balance your budget is not wise, meaning like writing tickets
Yeah,
on the street to generate revenue for the parking department.
correct.
Not the same model with pay as you throw, because it's not a punitive thing. It's really just balancing the tonnage that's being disposed of. And what happens is over time, people naturally get better, which is what we want.
Right,
The tonnage goes down, which means people buy less bags, which means less
Okay.
revenue goes into the coffers.
Okay.
right.
So it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we got so good, we don't even have the revenues that we thought we were gonna get if that was your goal.
If the goal is, yeah, but
Yeah.
to collect extra.
We try to warn
Right,
people.
so like when you're ballparking the bag fee, do you look at the overall tonnage for a year and?
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah, fee
Okay,
setting.
okay.
It comes between, I'm gonna just tell you, I'll take the mystery out of it. It's gonna end up between $2 and $5 a bag.
Okay,
That's how it goes.
okay.
That's,
Like a 30, probably 30.
yep, yeah, it's like usually a 32 gallon bag. It's a 40 gallon, whatever you wanna call it. It's the
Yeah.
equivalent of like, when you're looking at a 35 gallon cart, and this, by the way, I should mention, if you're gonna go for the 35 gallon carts as a convenience to
Mhm.
clean up the city and to make things like more, this is good health, benefit of keeping rodents and stuff out of your trash stream. Usually, to really do a true pay-as-you-throw, other communities we've seen do bags inside the carts.
Right, that's-
So, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so we were thinking 64, because right now we allow 232s.
Yeah, so what the theory on that one is if you, okay, so I see what you're saying. So in other words, 64, why would you do the 64?
Because right now we allow 232. So if we're gonna move to pay as you throw with bags, I didn't want to take away a whole barrel at the same time, because getting the overflow.
For
back-
storage, you mean,
Yeah,
on average?
yeah,
Well, as long as, if you're, okay, if you're committed to always doing bags, which is the unit-based pricing for for 32 gallons,
yeah,
then 64 gallon carts would be fine because it's just less.
yes.
But if at any point in time, and I will warn you, sometimes people could sneak things in,
Okay,
they might say to you, hey, I got an idea. How about instead of a per bag fee, why don't we do a 1 year, we'll charge you $300 per household. And you can throw as much as you want out in a
Mhm.
cart. You're like, wait a minute, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right, they're paying for trash, but what happens is, you've got a 64 gallon cart, it encourages more to be thrown away.
Right,
So now your tonnages go back up
Right.
again.
right,
What we found is that unit of 32 gallons is really the sweet spot for, like, I have a family of 5. I do food waste diversion. I never fill up more than my 32 gallon cart. Just because you give it now, doesn't mean it's gonna be the case. I bet you if you did an audit,
Mhm.
you'd probably find that not many people go over the 32 gallons, you know?
the people who recycle don't go over.
Exactly.
So we have a real problem with people not
That's-
recycling in this town.
It's unlimited now.
right.
Right. Oh, no, that makes
Just concerned about the taking, like we said, believe it or not, we used to have 4.
Oh, I believe it, yeah.
And I had no idea until we were without a finance director and a town administrator, and we had to do a contract, and Holler said, well, just, you allow 4 barrels now, just cut it to 2. I'm like, oh, sure, okay.
Yeah.
That's how we got the contract, okay.
Yeah,
And we're like, yeah, well, that makes sense, we'll cut to 2. I'm concerned if we try to cut to 1 at the same time we're introducing this other thing that we're just gonna alienate more people from the process. Because they're gonna say, okay, yeah, I'm filling, you told me 2 32 gallons. Now I'm gonna pay more and I'm only gonna have 1 32 gallon. I mean, that's the kind of thing they're gonna.
As a container,
Yes.
yeah.
Then they're saying now, so now they're gonna say, now I'm still gonna pay my taxes and
Mhm.
then I'm gonna pay for my bags. And on top of that, you're only gonna give me 1 32 gallon cart. That's what I'm concerned about.
I feel like if we
Are we taking-
educate our people better on the rules that they were supposed to have been following all this time that they're not currently, maybe they would see why 1 32 gallon container would be enough. I mean, there's so many people who aren't recycling, even that my test family of giving them a recycling container, the things that they're putting in there.
No, I'm just thinking that if we give them the 64 and they have to pay for the bags, they're gonna be careful about how many bags they use a week. If they can get by with 1 bag, they'll do it. But if
And they have a
can't,
container that's only a third of the way full or.
well, halfway full, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
but I feel like
Okay.
we talked about like David's first thing, I think that you ever said when you came to that one meeting was we should make the trash container smaller than the recycling container.
Well,
We all agreed with that and I agree 1000% that
My
we,
father lives in Kingston, New Hampshire. He has a 96 gallon trash, recycling
Recycling,
container and a
yes.
32, I believe, trash container. He never, now granted, he's all alone, so he never fills either of them.
Right.
But I had a family of 5. It's just me, my wife and daughter now. we recycled, we always put out 2 recycle bins and we never filled the trash barrel.
I feel like
One trash
if
barrel.
we just do a better job of public education.
You need that person to do public education.
But the page you're
That is the
talking
problem.
about, And one bag will fill your,
Yeah, it usually amounts to that. So like, Waste Zero is a company that's on state contract. They do the bags and they make these bags. Now, granted, some people will give you the whole like, oh, it doesn't fit in here and whatnot, but it's mostly people not trying. I mean, so essentially it's just like, you remember the O.J. Simpson, I can't get this glove to fit, like, so. But here's, I think this is gonna be my biggest caveat to you. If you go with 64, you bounce yourself out of, grant eligibility.
oh,
So that's a biggie. So we give you
64-1 or 64 period.
64 period. So if you go, so one thing, I'm in Malden, so one thing we did was we did this. We got 32-gallon carts. We got DEP grant funding for it. It was $30 per cart, not insignificant. It's a big deal. I don't know what was your price from Cascade per 32? Like $60 a cart, somewhere in that. So say it's 50. So you're saving over half
okay.
on the cart by getting this because you are pay as you throw. So in other words, you'd have to go pay as you throw to be eligible.
Oh,
for this.
okay. I
That's what we
see.
incentivize.
Okay. that's
And then we give you more money each year on RDP points for being a pay as you throw community. So it continues to give you grant money.
And that's the kind of stuff that you can continue to use for educational
Okay.
resources to keep because it's not gonna be a 1-year education, obviously. It's
Right.
like every year.
Oh my
get
God, yeah.
Resources out and,
Right.
Right.
yeah.
And then if you get, so what we did in Malden is we bought carts for everybody. And we have bags and carts. And then what we said was if you wanted an extra cart, if you thought you needed an extra cart, we
Okay.
gave it at like a really deeply discounted price. I think we gave it for like $20 a cart or so, whatever our cost was. And that's for the people that say, no way I could ever do it. People will complain, what they'll say is they'll go, oh, I'm never gonna be able to get that much in, which is an exaggeration, but just stipulate that they're right. They're gonna say, I can't get all my stuff in a 32-gallon. Guess what I'm gonna wind up doing? I'm gonna take a raw bag and I'm gonna put it on the sidewalk and the raccoons are gonna be all over it and your whole plan
Yeah.
fails.
Yeah.
What he says, okay, Mr. Smith, for $20 extra, or maybe you decide to give people a free extra bag. I don't know. Like, I mean, you have 2,200 households. It's
Yeah.
not out of the question to order,
I
like,
think-
say you ordered 500 extra carts, and just the people that really complain about it. Okay, here's an extra cart for $20. Now you've covered the concerns about
Oh, that's
extra.
so easy.
So you wait for them to complain.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you guys are in a suburban community, so nobody's gonna say, oh, I live in a triple decker and I can't store these carts or whatever. If anything, what you do is you get, a lot of elderly folks will say they can't move the bigger carts, so the 32.
Right,
That's what I'm worried about, yeah.
Yeah.
I've already mentioned it.
I
The 96
Oh,
gallon
you'll
thing
get
is
all manner of
big.
complaints, yeah.
Yeah.
You will get complaints you never even thought you could invent.
extra cart.
Just, but it's a rip off the Band-Aid thing. It's gonna be.
Okay. Okay.
But I think, so coming back to, the reason why we at DEP stick to that 32-gallon is because we know when we did our research, that's the number we arrive at, as anything more gets you the tonnage. Let me quickly share this really quick, Rebecca, if you don't mind. I'm gonna share something. So anyway.
I mean, is there any way to calculate based on the tonnage, like for a year in our town? If everybody had just 32, we should be able to calculate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How far away from that we are
Yeah.
per household,
We
right?
do it right now. I mean, I can tell you that, do you happen to know, off the top of your head what?
The tonnage
With
total.
the tonnage
You have
per-
2,486
And
tons
then-
for 2023.
So what is that per household? Do you know what that is off the?
2,200 households.
2,200,
So it was like 2,200 per house. It was like 2,200 pounds per household.
we can run the calculation for you, but so let me.
Yeah, no, that would be, because I think the more that we can explain things concretely.
Yeah, almost to be like, hey, you don't realize it, but you're already there. Like you think you're gonna throw away more, but you're probably not. This is This is a little thing that we do, which is
Huh.
it's like, what size? Whoa. I feel like I got no mouse control. Yeah, sorry, hold on. Okay, so when you look at this, the pounds per household,
Yeah,
right here, 1393 per household is what we see on average for people that have 35 gallon carts. Coming up to 48. This, by the way, this is if given like no restrictions, this is what people wind up filling up. So what happens is in a 48 gallon cart community, the average pounds per household is 1481. And notice what's going up here. In a 64 gallon community, it's up to 1700. So look at that, almost 400 pounds more per household just by increasing the size of the cart.
Yep,
So this is on average. This isn't like bigger community, more trash. This is just on average.
Yeah.
Per household. So the reason why we show this is to show you that when you incentivize with a smaller cart, people, they wind up fitting their needs into what they've done down to a sweet spot. Like we found that obviously you can't go any lower than that. Although San Francisco did, but that's about the sweet spot.
okay,
So was it 35 or 32?
30.
35, I keep saying 32, yeah,
the number straight, because they don't go up
35,
uniformly.
35. I kept saying 32 because,
I thought that's a
Yeah.
size, 32.
Yeah, the bag's 30, so the bags are 30.
Okay, so it's
Oh, so the cart
35,
35.
48, 64, 95.
when your Cascade doesn't do it, but some people say they give you like extra gallons in the lid, which is foolish. Because they say.
Oh, because
Yeah,
the
well,
windows are
no, it's
Oh.
stupid, but you gotta make sure Cascade's a good vendor. They're
Yeah.
reliable.
Okay,
But anyway, so if you went to a 35 gallon cart,
yeah,
what this does is it now sets you up for automation.
right.
And this is what all of the haulers want these days. They wanna, especially in a town like this,
Okay.
you're gonna collect 99% of your trash is gonna be one of those grabber arms.
Yes,
And they love it. 'Cause it
okay,
saves them money, saves them on health insurance costs for drivers. You get one driver who operates the whole thing. You used to have two drivers, now you got one.
because in our contract, I think it's our flat rate that's going up the fastest. Am I right on that?
The which one?
The pickup rate, the part of our contract that's going up the most in the last 2 years of it, 3 years of it, is the pickup cost, not the tonnage.
I believe that's
Yeah.
exceeding the tonnage
Is
rate.
your manual collection right now?
Yes.
Yeah,
So that's the worst one of them all in terms of the pricing,
Mhm.
because they're paying for workers' comp and all this other stuff. And what they'll do is they'll do this, sometimes they'll do something called semi-automated, which is this little fork that goes on the back of the truck. And it just scoops and goes like that.
okay,
And that does require a second person, so it is more pricey. That's like the second in their most favorable. Because the guy or the worker is not lifting
right,
the bags, but they're still pulling the thing off the curb, setting it up on the grabber arm and going.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more. It's better than manual,
okay.
but semi-automated second best. The best for the hauler is the fully automated.
So the fully automated, do you allow an overflow bag then? Because.
Yeah, yep, we do. So this is something we talked about. The haulers it varies on the contract, but you could find out what you're gonna get. Some will charge a premium fee for it. Meaning they'll say that if we have to haul an overflow bag, we're charging Groveland, $1 per bag or whatever. So if that's the case, you can, part of the fee setting of pay as you throw will help offset those costs.
Okay, but we're relying on them to count how many times they pick up a bag.
Yeah, they'll do
If they're
that.
charging you $1 for it, they will.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna be accurate. about it,
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they want it.
But yeah, like what I'm saying, then that would be maybe, okay, if you were looking at $3 for a pay-as-you-throw bag and then the haulers charging you $1, maybe now it's a $4 fee.
Yeah.
So that will just probably go into negotiation of like how you decide to like set a pay-as-you-throw bag fee.
And they may not.
And they might, especially in a small town, like they might not have one, so that would be some bidding process.
And there's no other way around that, really.
No, the only other way around it would be to guarantee you have enough carts for all collection, which it confuses us to why, this is why we know that, like, who's ever gonna have, it's like you can't have as many carts, you can't build a church for Easter Sunday. You can't know exactly what you're ever gonna have. It's always gonna be over.
Like, so we don't have, yeah, because we don't really have the staffing for people to bring their overflow bags down during their trash week to a dumpster.
Yeah.
We don't have the staff.
You don't have a transfer station here, do
We
you?
don't have the staffing for that kind of stuff.
No, so you, usually what you get is just you'll, so depends on the hall, or some of them ask you to put it on the top of the thing, and then it actually comes up with the, it comes up with the
Okay,
emptier.
okay.
Sometimes they do that. Sometimes the guy or the girl goes out and picks it up. That's all something you would do when you get closer to thinking about your RFP.
Yeah,
Okay.
and hopefully the most often case being.
Yeah.
People just gravitate towards just
One.
using their 35. Oh, I don't want to
Yeah.
put a trash bag. That's like another behavior that people don't really want to do. I don't really want to put a trash bag on top of my bag. So it's this also just kind of pushing people towards, oh, I'll just fill my 35 gallon. And then, like Ron said, maybe for the few people that feel like they really, really need it. Okay, maybe if they want to pay extra for another one, they can get it. But it's better to give that minority population of people that feel like they might need it and
Right.
charge them for it. And then maybe they don't use it versus then giving everyone to it. And now your waste reduction, then your number is probably going to stay relatively the same as opposed to kind of, no, here's the 35. The majority of people will hopefully just will gravitate towards fitting their trash into the 35.
Mhm.
And then that's how you start seeing these numbers start coming down, seeing it like that, Ron's graph kind of demonstrated.
Once people start to see the neighborhood cleaner and neater and the neighborhood nuisance is going away, the raccoons, not
Yeah,
handled.
who likes more trash?
People love
I
it,
mean, you get a windy day and you see
Oh,
recycling blowing all over the neighborhood.
especially in a
Yeah.
beautiful community like this, whereas like a lot of, wetlands and
Yeah.
green area.
Mhm.
And what we found too is it's a give and get thing. When you impose pay as you throw, but you don't give a cart, that's usually one of the worst ones because
okay.
people, it's like you get into that real basic level of thinking, I'm getting nothing, I'm giving something.
Right.
And if you're going with a cart that, again, storage, keeping it off the street, I'm sure you guys have plenty of vermin up this way that, raccoons and coyotes and things like that,
Gunks.
Skunks are not vermin, they're part of the ecosystem, please,
Yeah.
they are not vermin.
There's still
Rats are
neighborhood-
vermin.
There's still neighborhood nuisances.
Rats are vermin.
Yeah, so
There's still neighborhood nuisances.
Not
I
like
apologize if I used the wrong
Okay.
term, but what
I just don't want skunks to be mislabeled.
no,
No, I'm serious.
If there was a skunk here, I'd probably pet him if he wouldn't spray me. I'm an animal lover. It's not that. What I mean to say is that,
No,
they are indiscriminate about their actions.
All right.
So whatever the
Getting-
animal is that decides it wants a meal, it could be a bear up here, it could be anything.
Be a bear.
Whatever animal decides it wants in, this will keep them out.
So, okay, so let's say you go to this 35 then. Where that makes us eligible for some help getting them. Someone gets a cart. Do you get a bigger cart for the recycling still? Do we go like with the, the visual of, whoa, this,
Some people like that. A
Some
lot of
people
people
do,
like
yeah,
that as a
yeah.
town. Like, oh, look, yeah, there's a cool optic of, oh, we're recycling so much bigger than our
but
Sends a
recycling.
message.
get to your concern.
I know,
People want
for
to-
example, Boxford, where they went to carts and my friend owns a barn, and she is able to get all of the recycling from the barn into this giant cart. But she had a lot of trouble being able to get it down her great big long driveway, so.
Yeah.
When the 96-gallon ones, I mean, they look visually like the same size-ish, I guess, as the next smaller one, but they're much bulkier, right?
Yeah.
No, they're taller too. They're taller and bigger.
Are they?
They're huge.
They're pretty big, so
Yeah.
I guess if you're gonna go to every 2 weeks.
That would be the only way to do it. If you were going every 2 weeks, you would never want to go 64. You would have to go 96.
Okay, so
If you were gonna go every week,
we could
you
go,
could make the argument of both.
Okay,
could you go with, give people 235s for their recycling?
Yeah, you could. I mean, some
Oh.
people, it depends on, because what do you have now? 18 gallon, the open top, the old school bins,
Yeah,
right?
just don't-
Yeah, so those are 18. So that's like two. So you figure, and then the other thing you could do too is, because.
There's no limit on those, really. I mean, people put out 5, 6, 8, or 10
I've,
of them.
some people have
They-
really
they-
collected a lot of them.
And they're not even the ones that we've given out. They're
I know, they're different.
containers that they put out with stickers on them saying
Yeah.
recycling.
And that's,
That's
and
it.
it's fine, as long as you go, now, that gets into the hauler thing as to whether or not
Right.
they accept that, and they may,
See.
and and if they're going fully automated, they're not gonna accept it.
Right.
So you probably should really give it some serious thought about, because you guys are good recyclers. The biggest problem with, 96, other than the weight, is, it can also hide contamination. Meaning that people will be like, oh, now I gotta pay for trash. I'm gonna do what they call wish cycling. I'm gonna dump as much in here as possible.
Another term.
Recyclable, they'll throw it. in.
Yeah, and they'll figure, "Oh, that's your problem now." So that does happen. But I think because you guys are already good recyclers, I don't see that probably is less of an issue. But I think, you know, to the point here is that now that is when you have to start thinking about your playing nice with your hauler and saying, if you're gonna be fully automated, you can't be like, oh, you know, well, if you wanna put out a Home Depot bin too, because the hauler will say.
You wanna have the
"It's not compliant."
standardized
Yeah,
bins, right?
they can't standardize.
I don't know how good we are about recycling, actually, and
I thought you were. I thought we were saying you good.
I see a
I-
lot of it in different areas. I mean,
It-
people have those bins so forever.
yes, I just think certain neighborhoods are problematic, and some people say, I don't know. For example, I have a colleague that I work with who says, I don't know anybody who recycles.
They
And
live
first of all, I was completely deflated.
They live here.
Yes,
Well,
on Center Street.
so you're gonna have those people everywhere you go.
Yeah.
That's around. I think that's gonna happen no matter what.
Like belligerently non-recycling.
For the most part, I think people get recycling these days.
So there's someone in a meeting recently said something that I loved, and it was, if things are hard, 20% of people will always still do it.
Right.
If you make it easier for them, 60% of people
Right.
will then do it. 20% of people will never do it, like no matter what.
Exactly.
And I think recycling is unfortunately, there's always gonna be a small cohort of people who are just like, hopefully we can get that as low as
Nothing I
possible.
can do.
But I think that's unfortunately one of the realities of it is
But-
but that, I think all of these kind of conversations is what makes it easier to recycle. And then there's that whole education component, which like you're saying is a huge piece, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations about that. 'Cause that's naturally like a huge piece of this puzzle.
So are there costs, now that they get this blended value thing, is it standardized in the state, or do different companies come up with their own little
They peg it.
cookie mixture?
No, they can come up with their own mixture, but they peg it to a recycling markets. There's this thing called recycling markets.
Okay, so-
Which is like it tells you what the commodity prices are,
Okay.
but they still might go out on their own and say, like, they might tweak those values, but they would be transparent with it in the contract. They would tell
You
you.
would see that.
Yeah, but usually, again, this is why we're gonna encourage you to join that. It's a pretty, I forget what the price of the membership was, but you can see. the
$50 a
values.
year.
Yeah, you can see what the values are, so you can actually, it gives you good leverage. And we also found that when you say you're monitoring it, the vendors perk up. They're like, whoa, okay, they're checking values.
I forget what that was
Like,
called.
We're checking our bills.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's called.
And we're in our contract, we say that we have the right. to-
Yep.
Northeast best
Oh,
practice.
And,
okay, yes.
and another thing to consider too is back to taking the mystery out of if you are a good recycler or not. We also recommend that you ask for, who's your hauler now, Waste?
Waste management.
So you can ask for an audit, contamination audit
Hmm.
for,
You Want that?
yes, you do. You do, because you want a baseline. You want to know what your baseline is, because what's gonna happen is that's how you kind of can get dinged on fees, like some vendors will say, we assume an automatic 10%
Yes, that's
recycling contamination.
Yes.
And then others might say more. So you might get a bid where somebody goes, oh, hey, I'm gonna pick on Mello. Just say Mello says, no, we assume 20%. if you have a baseline and you know your contamination rate is only like 12%, you'd be like, no, we're not gonna play ball there because we're already below what your like minimum is.
But so when I looked at it, like that was the part of the contract that confused me a little bit because I saw that they assumed the 10% and I saw the contamination fee, but I haven't seen a bill where we were ever assessed for
Oh.
anything.
Really?
Right, and I mean, I haven't looked through all of your bills.
I haven't,
But
I don't look at the bills. I mean,
Okay.
you know, I'm.
Like, when we're doing the contract over and Lori was giving me copies of everything, I never saw a charge for contamination. But when they say they assume 10%, I'm
What are they charging us the 10% right on the top?
assuming that's built in or something.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, it might be, sometimes they're kind of assuming that like 10% part of the blended value is essentially if you have 100 units, they're assuming 10% of that is going to be contaminated.
And they
The
take it
the
out.
cost for contamination for them is -$50, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, they're
Built
kind of,
in.
they're building it into their,
I wonder
your
if that's-
assumed structure.
I bet you that's exactly what's.
Yeah, because I've tried, I mean, like I said, I sat there and rebuilt a few months of bills and then I was just like, I don't know
Well,
what
the
they're
reason we
doing.
think you guys are good recyclers is because why would Recycling Partnership have denied you? I think we should take another whack at that, by the way, because this is another grant program besides us.
Okay,
But anyway, that's something we can get to, but I mean, these are the kinds of things that we would suggest during this process is to do, like, you know, give yourself a base
So we
audit.
should ask Waste Management.
Yeah, it might be in your contract already. You might already, because where do they take your recyclables? You know,
To the incinerator.
and some of them do.
No, they do.
The recyclables?
Recycle-
Oh, no, the recycling center. Oh, wait, we know where that is. Oh,
Not Bill Ricker. Bill Ricker is the
Mm.
trash.
yeah, that was the diversion. There was a
Take
diversion.
the trash to Billerica. I thought they took it right over to Haverhill
Um,
and to the
No,
incinerator.
diverted tons. They go to, there's New Hampshire. Leominster Transfer Station.
It would be something called a MRF, a materials recovery facility.
oh.
Well, the reason why I ask is because most will do. The MRF is the one that usually does the audit. What they'll do is they'll take like a truckload on the floor, tip it out, and then separate it and see what the.
See, I wonder what they're doing because our trucks are they're not commingled, but it's a trash
Single stream.
recycling truck with two separate compartments.
Oh, like a split body?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
For trash and recycling?
yeah,
On the same truck?
on the same truck.
Oh, that's not.
That's
usual?
a big no-no, yeah. That's not, that's.
See, I saw it one day when I was home from work and I'm like, why are they putting recycling with the trash? They were dumping it looked like they were dumping it all into one compartment.
It is Bill Ricker. Waste Management, Bill Ricker Materials Recovery Facility.
Okay.
MRF is located at 72.
You've never seen that?
Bill Ricker.
No.
And processing about
Check
40
it
tons
out.
per month of single stream recycling materials from Groveland.
Bill Ricker.
Yeah, I watched them pretty closely one day after that and you can see the arm go up and the recycling goes to one compartment and then the trash goes to another.
I guess if it's, I mean,
But
if it, I guess.
How are they dumping it when they get to the?
They,
the
they
end
can
site?
separate it, yeah, because, that, there used to be, dual stream recycling used to be a big thing, and that's where you see those trucks.
Right, but that would, I feel like that would raise your cost because now they're going to two different facilities to offload.
Right, making two
Yeah,
trips.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
your fuel costs are going up.
absolutely, it's all baked in,
Yeah,
yeah. I would be shocked if anybody came in with a new proposal that did the same. You
I
know,
don't think, I think they're
Really?
the only company I've ever seen use those trucks.
that's wild.
So interesting.
They would give you,
When we talked to them about renegotiating and opening up the contract to do automated, they would prefer,
Obviously, to get rid of that, so they don't have to.
I think they could do that now. I don't think they have to wait until they open up the contract.
Right. well, and that's part of too, they also will do whatever, you know, efficiencies they can within the contract. And that's the thing, I think if you have a good contract, and then, you know, some of the other things we can help with on the group about the best practices is to build in things like liquidated damages if they don't do a good job, if they start missing
Right.
pickups, things like that.
That's our problem right now,
See
so.
that though there, like we have recycle material, recycling. I feel like we just keep paying more and more and more to these people, no matter what we do. It's unbelievable how many charges we have. This doesn't,
So I think probably
they combine things, it looks like.
a good next step might be to think about, the pay-as-you-throw concept and how does that sit with you guys? Because if you think about it, we've granted you a in-kind technical assistance grant to do pay-as-you-throw analysis.
Yeah.
Rebecca's also, again, doing double duty on, the contracting. So what we would normally do is we would say to a community, okay, what is your willingness to go to pay-as-you-throw? If you think it's gonna get shot down by the town, like, or if you think your colleagues are gonna say, no way. Then what we do is we change our directive towards being a resource to answer questions to the people who aren't on board. You know what I mean? Whether it be like public meetings, convincing other
We're gonna
board
need to have
members.
public meetings, that's for sure. We need, see, the problem is that, the ones that will complain, well, there's one, I think there's one member of my board that's going to be, not on board. I don't think, but maybe with answering more questions, more information, we could gain his acceptance, because the other side to this is override. We've had an override for trash already.
Yeah,
Okay, and because it's far outpacing,
yeah.
the increase in our tax rate, and we're a town that, believe it or not, we don't really pass a lot of overrides. Really don't. People that have lived here all their life are used to this, that we balance our budget.
Mhm.
We only come back like when we have to build something new. Most of the operating costs, they don't want to see that on the override. The operating overrides fail. Trash is the only one that passed, and that was because we had nowhere to go. The school budget got passed through two towns, and we didn't pass it, so we had no money to pay for our trash contract.
And the next line, because I would have bought what you were just selling right there, which is absolutely perfect. The next line would be, so we don't want to have to do an override, therefore.
Therefore,
Yeah.
you only pay for the amount that you throw out, and if somebody else is
I think it's
causing
brilliant.
the tonnage to go up, they're gonna pay more.
Yeah, and overall, as a town, we'll hopefully start paying less in general disposal fees.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we got.
Assuming a better
Yeah,
contract.
Right, right.
I mean,
right,
pay as you throw sort of spells itself out.
Right,
Yeah.
So people pay for what they're throwing away, period.
so if we paid like $12,000 in one monthly bill for trash, we're splitting that up across the tons and then into the bags, right?
Yeah,
That's what we're doing, we're breaking that right down.
yeah, it's pretty easy to I mean,
Okay.
it's pretty easy to calculate, but I would say though, it's a little, again, I just want to make sure that me and Brian know what you want us to do from here, and I think it sounds like you've definitely got the convincing part to do, to your the other members, whether it be of the select board or the town
Right.
folks themselves. And then what we do is we then put our, information hats on, our public meeting information hats, right?
Yeah,
So now let's just say in a perfect scenario,
Okay.
maybe that takes 30 hours of Brian's time. Then what can happen is if you're like, yep, everything went good, we've got agreement, we're gonna go to pay-as-you-throw, then we switch. Then we come to help you with the implementation. So we'd help you write an implementation plan. So it'd be, you guys do it, but we give you the items to do.
right, but on top of that, like when I look at like the recycling charges are a lot for the money. We're expecting our recycling charges to go down on the next contract, we think, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know,
yeah.
yeah. There's no way to really tell that.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because they might be like, oh, they know that you hadn't paying it before, so
Right.
like in a perfect world, yes.
So I mean, I didn't know if it was worth our while, so these are the things I thought if we could talk to you, we would know where to channel our efforts, because what we're trying to do as the committee members, not, is do any research and digging and stuff that, so she doesn't, because she has like 400 million things to do every day too. So is it worth our while to look at a town that has a pay-as-you-throw contract and take our current tonnage of things and run it through their pricing. You know what I mean? To show people what it would look like.
I mean, that would be something you could do, Brian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that kind of like, if that's something that you think would be helpful to come out of, to potentially start convincing people in the town, cause it sounds like Ron's point, like this first kind of like phase of like how maybe we use this grant assistance is
Right.
like, what can we provide that helps you convince your like people in your town on a select board to like go ahead with this. So yeah,
Right.
if some sort of like analysis is what that looks like, then I think that's a great use of my time, is to be like, yeah, here's a kind of like a breakdown of
Right.
what looks like similar towns and things like
And
that.
could you show,
Oh,
like
it's
you
all-
talked about, a decrease due to
So
implement.
that's the one that I think the only tricky part of that is it's kind of, where I'd be hesitant is
Yeah.
that's based off a guess, like that because of the hauler contract group, that will get a better price on blended value, and I would hope that. But I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't like promise that, I like, so it's one of those things, like, it could almost be like, well, conservative savings is this, optimistic saving, you know what I mean? Like, if we
Okay.
end up getting a better, say we
Well, that's
continue to
maybe a
lose
good way to
money, you
handle
know what I
it,
mean? Yeah.
Conservatively
Leave it for
speaking,
Harley.
and maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of like different scenarios, yeah, like,
This is possible, yeah, because I don't want to promise something.
yeah, I don't wanna put you in
Thank
that
you.
situation,
Yeah.
yeah. So like,
Thanks, Steve.
in a
Sorry, I'm
scenario
just in a
where
meeting.
we get,
Yeah,
where we
no, I'm
make money on
sorry, I didn't
recycling,
understand. I
and
get
here's in the
Thank you.
scenario with these disposal and recycling costs, this is what it looks like. In the scenario where they're even, this is what the cost breakdown looks like. Is there anything else you think like the cost thing speaks
I-
volumes? Is
I
there
think-
anything else that you think
Well, I think
convinces people?
There's some thoughts right now that like, if we just get a better contract, then we're gonna be fine. No need to change anything because it's just trash. And I know we had another speaker that spoke about the fact that the cost of trash is going to continue to escalate. I mean, we're seeing an escalation in the last 3 years of our contract is the
Mhm.
biggest. And I'm wondering, do you have data that shows that? That, I mean, kind of it's a scare tactic in a way, but it has to be factual. That just, is the cost of trash really going to escalate?
So you can do that based upon the tonnage that you're seeing in all the other communities. 'cause
Yeah,
they're
we
all
have the
same.
data,
Yeah.
we have all the rates, I mean, we
But
get,
the cost of it, like the cost of hauling, the cost of
yeah,
going beyond what we can fit in our operating.
that's what this group
That's
does.
what I-
We
okay.
keep all that data in one spreadsheet to the back, like, so we can't predict what you're gonna get, but we can certainly tell you what other, because contracts are public, as soon as we get them, we pop them into our database and we try to demystify what they might be. So yeah, you can definitely see what's out there. But the problem is there are enough, that's why I think to Brian's point is it might be difficult for you to say it's gonna, that you're gonna land on an exact value because these haulers, they figure a lot of different things in, like when you talked about the mileage traveled, stuff like that, whether or not you're, you have a disposal contract separate. You guys have your own disposal contract separate, or is it baked into baked in? So there's a lot of, what we could do is essentially provide you information to say, hey, town folk, this is what DEP is showing us. With these costs are going up, this is
Okay,
what everybody else is getting these days. So the only way to really buffer against us being, having to go to an override or continuously having trash costs spin out of control against our will is to get a unit-based pricing
Right.
method, and that's to do pay as you throw.
okay. And do you have anything from like a town that's maybe done it for a couple of years, like how many bags is it like a house?
Oh, yeah.
Buy a month, maybe? Because somebody said to me, I think I would be using 5 of those bags a day. And I said, I don't think you'd be using.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not
that's
kidding.
No, I know, trust me, yeah.
I mean, you guys,
Oh, but-
Figure that
And I know
out.
when I first,
5 regular trash bags today.
Yeah.
I heard,
My response, are you using 5 trash bags?
They might be thinking about like the tall kitchen.
I don't know how.
Like-
even so.
that's a good, yeah,
one
probably,
bag a
yeah.
week.
You could fit 5 of those in a.
Yeah, it's probably,
in a
like,
40 gallon.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm just saying.
no, I know that these.
We could say like,
Yeah.
let's say we're charging $3 a bag. how much would a family of four, say, probably pay?
Yeah.
Most likely.
Well, it gets down to the
Sidewalk.
tonnage. You can easily figure that out because you know how much you throw away. You already know that. And if you take that and you go pounds per house.
Oh, then we can just do it
Yeah.
for the town.
Back of the
Yeah.
napkin right now.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
so then we could put to bed the whole thing that somebody's gonna be paying, $200 a month for their recycling, for their
Right.
Asia throwbacks.
I mean, if it's a 32-gallon trash bag, I mean, that's like a contractor's bag.
Yeah.
Right.
Using that,
I know,
I
these are
remember.
the things that people. just-
unless you're
Well,
cleaning out a house.
I think unless we come up with some,
But-
concrete data things to show that
Totally, well, yeah.
they're going to just go into this. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna use,
There's
Oh,
gonna be,
you're so right, yeah.
there's gonna be an education component. And the other question is,
Yeah.
is this gonna have to clear town meeting? So,
it will.
and if,
you'll have
if
to
it's gonna
click on
clear
it.
town meeting, that's
Yeah.
gonna be the biggest hurdle, I think, is
Yeah.
getting 100 people or 100 voters to show up and have a majority of them say, yes, I'll vote for this.
Well,
Yeah.
typically, if the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Health and other Conservation Commission types of members advocated for this as a very good thing for the town and good for the environment.
Well, so, but that brings me around to the other point is everybody talks about the money and I agree 1,000%, but we don't talk very much about our dwindling landfill space and also the fact that all of our incinerators are located in terrible areas.
Yep,
Environmental justice communities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
when we ship it out, and when we ship it out, they go to environmental justice communities in other states when we're putting them on the trains, so. it's,
So you say we're shipping our trash out of state, right? But our.
Not all of it.
Not all of it.
No, but our hauler goes to an incinerator, right?
Yeah, your waste to energy. But I mean,
Okay,
on the
but
whole,
Yeah.
But the
Massachusetts.
other haulers in Massachusetts, they are not bringing to incinerator, they're bringing it to.
Some do, so it depends on the load, it depends on their arrangements, it depends on, like, you guys have like you might get a new hauler that doesn't go to, where do you go to Covanta?
It's Covanta.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they might not,
Talked about
your
last
new
time.
hauler might not, your new hauler might say, we go to this place.
Right.
And this place takes half of it and ships it to Ohio and this.
Okay, so they actually do that.
Oh, yeah.
Just-
And I
I guess
think-
I want to add that component, the
I wrote-
education, because
Yes.
it's about the money, I agree, but it's also about
No,
it's-
saving the planet.
And I think that's actually the easier argument to make.
Okay.
Cause it's almost so odd, like the money thing, we almost have to be like, oh, let me show you some math and some numbers, like, okay, here's the money thing, I'll show you. But it's kind of obvious and on the environmental side, and of course, we'll break it down and show the numbers to make it look pretty. But yeah, you're using less trash and you're recycling more. So I totally agree. Like that's gotta be a huge piece of the argument. But that's also like the beauty of the pay as you throw program in a way is whether someone's financially concerned or environmentally concerned,
It's a
the goal is
Yeah.
to say they can kind of agree on the fact like, oh, it's beneficial for both of us to
Okay,
just like
good,
use
yes,
less trash.
we have
But-
to use that.
Yeah, but that will totally be part of the piece. It's like,
We actually use that, we have a slide in our slide deck.
yeah, that was totally me stealing
Yeah.
that from Ron's.
Yeah,
slide.
that's what it is. It's just like two people. One saves money, one saves the environment. It's like, we're essentially
We're all in the
in the
same
same direction. you
Okay.
know? So yeah, yeah, I agree with Brian. I thought that was obvious, but you're right. You might, this is something, because you want to hit upon people that's an important thing to them.
Yeah,
Yes.
and those are, yeah, I think I've always thought that like in a lot of these like town meetings and whatnot is. It's a lot of people that might be against it can be like very like loudly against it,
Vocal.
then it's always important to kind of. I don't wanna use there's better metaphor than stack the deck, but in the sense of. Even the playing field in the sense like, no, but also like, let's invite people that are passionate about this in the other way, like that I think that are equally as vocal and passionate in the sense of, no, this is really important to do.
Right.
Because we're a town that wants to, because we have a beautiful town and we want to keep it beautiful,
Yeah.
like, and that like element of it too, so.
Okay, good,
Yeah,
good,
inviting
thank
us.
you.
So we'll need to clear a town meeting. Do you think?
I'm still not
clearing-
sure we do need to get a town meeting vote in order to move forward with the program. Since the select
Well-
board went through the contract negotiations without involving a town meeting. vote.
Yes, we did. Well, but we didn't, well, we did change the barrels, but the town meeting had to appropriate money for the contract.
You'd have to do that if you were doing an enterprise fund, but if you were doing a general fund and leaving in the operating budget, then you wouldn't need to go for town meeting to do that. You would only need any type of allocation. So the only thing that they would have control over is the allocation for the trash.
That's a very good point.
So I don't think you do. I just
But
sent
what
another
about-
request over to town council to verify.
Yes.
I don't see where you would be able to negotiate a contract, change the barrel limit, and do all of that outside of town meeting, but yet a pay-as-you-throw program would require a town meeting vote.
But we had to have the town meeting appropriate the money for the contract.
You have to appropriate any line item in a budget.
Right.
Very good point.
Yeah.
For the carts to, you know.
And that would be the other thing. If you were gonna take the carts, if we couldn't get a grant program, how would you fund the carts? Would you do a free cash
Yeah, I
allocation?
would
or
do
would
it for
you?
cash.
Exactly.
I don't want to charge people for those.
Exactly, but I also like the grant.
Yeah.
And we do require ownership of the carts to give the grant. But you can, there's a way to do like a lease to own. Some of these vendors will allow you to
Fire
own
ownership.
it after a couple of years, but the best
That's awesome.
models.
That's so stupid, like 10 years or something, West Newbury owns their parts.
Yeah,
Then the other part that we discussed as well is that if we have our existing contract with Waste Management and then we allow us to open up the contract, can we utilize that money for fiscal year 26 to move towards an automated system, take those savings, which we've already almost budgeted
know.
for, and utilize that for the trash cart purchase, so that when we do go out to bid again, we don't have to worry about the carts
Right.
because we've already done it. as
Right.
part of our
So-
original
Waste-
Waste Management's offered like a kind of 2020, go automated early and we'll,
Yeah.
they offered something similar. Oh, it was Republic.
Well, no, we
right?
have to re-up for front of the 5 years, right?
Well, they did offer us a chance to renegotiate, but the
But
terms
they'll do
are
it, but they will
obviously,
do it, will they do it for want?
And that's the thing,
Yeah.
we would have to negotiate in terms of what
we would get, because they added other things in there as well.
Yeah, gotcha. But then one note on to the kind of the point of like hitting both the things is I think that's where that conversation on the 35 gallon, like centering the conversation on that is also like, okay, so this 35 gallon from the Mass DEP grant perspective, you get grant money, it makes it more affordable to do with the grant money. And then also the 35 gallon is naturally now we're adjusting behavior to hopefully just a significant
Yes.
waste reduction as a town. So I think that's the that piece of it, kind of hits both those
So
boxes.
do you think the Board of Health, do you have a full board right now? Or is it just, you have 3? You do have 3, yeah, okay. If this was brought to the Board of Health, if some of this, the stuff he's going to come up with was brought to the full board, could you get at least a 2 out of 3 vote to support it?
I couldn't say that right now. I don't know.
Or would you be willing to
I
ask?
mean, I would bring it to them, but I can't,
Okay.
I couldn't guarantee that I could get.
No,
two
I mean,
out
I
of
can't
three.
guarantee a vote either, but I would say that the likelihood of getting a majority vote out of the Board of Selectmen, if this is both financially and environmentally saving, is 90%. Right now with the board we have now.
Yeah.
I know
But
one
I would
member
like
would
to
probably
have-
vote no, and
I know
I
one,
mean, and I don't know where the other member sits.
right, so that's what I was hoping like that, I don't know what, I mean, we have you here.
Yeah.
And you always have, good thoughts and good input, but it would be good to have the support of the Board of Health. I don't know how else to say that.
I like to support it. I'll wait to see where we go.
how would it come out of Board of Health? What
It would
it
just
come
be
out
a- it
as?
would just
Like a
be a-
resolution?
No, I think it would just be a vote to support
Yeah. just
the,
to- going out to
positive
bid.
recommendations.
Going out to, we're going out to, get information or bid, whatever you want to call it, for this form of contract.
I mean, but if you think about it, you could, if you wanted the support, then I would refine what you send to the Board of Health as the purview of
Right.
Board of Health,
Right.
which is like things like keeping
Right.
trash contained.
Right,
You know what I mean?
That
Like, they don't
is
say,
right.
hey, what do you
Yes.
think, what do you think of the price? Well, really has nothing to do with the, no
Right.
offense. has
No,
nothing to do with
absolutely, because I
health,
don't
you know?
care about the price.
It's like,
Not, no offense, but we don't involve ourselves in price. So somebody says to me, well, you're killing my business, you're putting me out of business because you're charging me X. Well, I'm sorry, but that's the cost of business.
Okay.
yeah.
okay,
So if it's more of a containment, I mean.
Okay.
About the environment and, preventing rodent infestation or trash all over the place, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess from an education standpoint, it's like,
Okay.
the cleaner, like recycling is just,
okay.
yeah, keeping trash in trash and recycling too.
Right.
So, okay, that makes sense to me. So as we get closer to what we're going to get a consensus from this group with,
I do think that the contract needs to go out to bid. I don't think we should be negotiating with Waste Management.
right,
You mean
There's
RFP?
another caller that would like to come in and have a conversation with us if we're interested in having a conversation as well, so. I mean, there is an opportunity, but based upon what other communities have done, is that they have a outline of what they're expecting, so that that particular individual can give you a better price and see whether or not that waste management would be willing to compete with that.
So you could still have a competitive process without necessarily going out to bid, as long as you knew what you wanted to get.
Out of it in the long run.
I'm less concerned about Waste Management's price again, honestly, than I am their customer service, to be honest. with you. Their customer
Yeah.
service, in my opinion, so, and we deal with them in Salem.
Yeah.
Their customer service is not great.
No, it's not.
Plus,
When it
going out
goes
to
bad,
bid,
it stays bad.
going out
for
to
a
bid versus request for proposals, like, are we still? Are you using that interchangeably?
That's what.
Okay,
Right, well, on the
Okay.
list of concern, what I put is concerns, like, I think customer service was on my list, because I know
That's top of my list, this.
we had a rough time with, waste management as we transitioned from the old contract to the new contract with them. And there was no really good explanation ever given for the amount of trash that wasn't picked up.
Well, it sounds like what we can offer you are these talking points
Yes,
that support.
you're helping us now, by explaining, like, understanding where the Board of Health is gonna be looking at this from. So we satisfy them. The committee wants to know financially, how's this help balance our budget, right? So then the Board of Selectmen then gets everybody on board and says, oh, okay, yeah. That's where we want to get to, so that then you can, I don't know what you want to call it when you talk around or bid around or get information around, but I'm sure you'll do a great job with it. You just need to know
What you want.
yes, what we want. And an outline of how it would be priced and what it would look like here. Because I think the frustration level with trash is high enough. I think the general consensus is that we don't have a great contract right
Yeah,
now.
people
so-
over talking about like. the-
Yeah,
the-
Yeah, yes. And so going to a different kind of contract with better customer service, not trash flying all over the place. Yes.
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the exciting
Stabilizing the
things
Budget, yeah.
for you guys right now is that these two kind of conversations are kind of happening in tandem with each other, like the contracting and pay as you throw. Because you can kind of like, they kind of obviously it's like natural like cross lines in like certain ways.
Right.
So I think there's some
Right.
advantageous elements to that.
I
Right.
like the way you framed it when you said what you said about the contrasting it to the override thing, because that made a lot of sense to me. It didn't sound like fear mongering. It didn't sound like, it sounded really reasonable. Like, hey, something bad's coming,
Yes,
no matter what.
yes,
We can't continue to ride this out because the industry doesn't collect the way we're a dinosaur right now.
Right.
The way our trash program, it's gonna change, and so we can be in control of that outcome to some degree, or we can just say, all right, waste management, I guess it's you. And then, you end up in the same place
Yeah.
without pay as you throw, and by the way,
Oh, okay.
we see that.
They're,
we see it like
they're
it's
at a
happening
meeting.
right now. There's other towns, I won't share the names, but they're gonna wind up getting that
okay.
anyway.
Good to see
There
you.
was a lack of will to do a pay as you throw thing, and they're stuck in the same model.
that's Boxford.
That's one, but there's a lot, and I think, again, it's that whole old school way of thinking about double taxing and,
Is it old school thinking?
I think it is. I think
Okay.
it's an old way of thinking. I think.
Cause that's,
Yeah,
I think
'cause
that's our
unit-
number one
unit
barrier.
pricing is a more economics kind of term that you don't.
I do
see
like it
in
actually, yeah.
municipal finance as much. Municipal finances, you pay your taxes, they take care of the rest.
Unit-based
Don't bother
pricing,
me.
think of
That-
it as a utility.
We're starting to get, more creative, like I mean, now the water and sewer is charging a flat, I think it's $25 water flat capital fee. And there's been pushback on that, but they're not collecting enough money to keep up with the infrastructure of delivering water.
Yeah, people like that.
And not to mention the increasing
Yes,
regulation,
exactly.
for the quality of the water. We don't have a treatment plant. so-
And we say too, like, listen, if you wanna be kind of like a Yahoo and throw away whatever you wanna throw away, yeah, the environmentalists don't like that, but guess what? You're not gonna be weighing me down because of your poor decisions on your end, you know?
Right.
So I get to be, you know, more, environmentally minded and be able to pursue mine, and you can still do what you do, but it isn't gonna negatively affect the town.
You can throw your recycling.
Same thing with water, like, yeah, and that's why the comparison of utility, I think, works so
The
well.
water
Like, you're never just gonna be
utility,
like, oh, I can take 2 hour long showers and it doesn't affect anybody, you know what I mean? It doesn't, oh, I don't have to pay it all, I can just negatively affect everybody else and it doesn't affect me.
Put it this
one
way,
bit.
you all wouldn't wanna have to pay my cable bill. My husband likes them on station, and it's an ongoing feud. So, do you really wanna pay, you know, for your neighbor's trash?
That's
Or
what
do
I
you wanna
keep
just
telling
pay for your own
people.
trash?
Yes.
In this way, we are, we're paying the fixed cost of it, uniformly based on your ability to pay, which is reflected in your price of your
Yeah.
house. That's sort of our taxation thing.
Yeah,
And then the other part of it is you're paying for what you throw out.
yeah,
So how much you buy, you know, bags and bags of small things and then throw them all in the trash. Or do you use, you know, resealable bags and reuse them?
and then, cause you're right, cause then such an orients your brain, they just have a little tweak of just like. Thinking about this totally just kind of like orients people's brains a little bit more to exactly what you're saying, like. Oh, maybe I'll just do this, and you kind of like things that you once just took for
Yeah.
granted, you're like, oh, it's actually just as easy to do this.
Yeah, just
This is
buy a couple
bag.
plastic containers and
True,
put
but
the
I-
kids' snacks in
I
that.
do worry about recycling because when I'm walking through my neighborhood, I do see things.
That's real, that's the education, it was, yeah.
Yes.
It's gonna happen.
I-
Yeah.
I can't remember where I saw it, if it was Mass Recycles or whatever, but somebody had come up with this display that showed the things that you can't. And I'm just thinking about Groveland Day coming up, the things, it shows the things that you can recycle versus the things
Yeah,
that you
Yeah.
can't, like people who throw
We have
rakes.
plenty of
Yeah,
area
totally.
guys to do that.
especially like that's a
Do you
great
have
thing about.
something that we can get by the 7th?
We already
Yeah,
have.
totally, it's all,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
like a small community too, where it's like so much easier to probably get it to everybody quickly.
Yes,
But yeah,
Groveland Day is.
Yeah, we
Right
have,
up.
we have Recycle Smart MA, which is
Yes.
we have we have a number of graphics, press kit graphics that we can give you to print out.
That would be amazeballs.
Yeah.
And then, as long as I have you guys here, is there any, and I think I asked this at the seminar that, whether it was you guys or whoever that we went to a couple months ago, is there any movement on policy change as far as making NIPS illegal or doing what Maine did with throwing it back on the producers? Like,
Some,
how do we get change happening?
the one we're working on now is, there's there's a few things cooking. The bottle bill is probably gonna be redone at some point soon. That's been circling.
Okay.
Not all that close. There's a paint stewardship program going on for extended producer responsibility with paint, but that doesn't really affect your trash. That's more of like a household hazardous waste
Yeah.
thing. Nips and plastic bag, I mean, there's a statewide plastic bag ban. I don't know that
White plastic bag ban?
no, I'm saying,
Some towns. it's-
statewide guidance on cities
How to
and
do it,
towns,
okay,
how to do it.
all right,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry. And single-use plastic. So I don't know that there's anything circling that has teeth
I
right
know
now.
several towns have tried to ban nips and the liquor industry has
Pushback.
bitten that in the bud, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what's funny though, is when you start to become a community of reduction, you tend to see more opportunities. And more townspeople will start to do things like the food waste, like that's an easy thing that rides on the back of
Yeah.
a reductionist
Yeah,
mentality.
yeah.
So it's like, if you go there first, then most people are like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. But now all of a sudden you're paying for your trash and you're like, oh, I can see myself doing that, like I do it.
Yeah.
And then there's other things too. There's all the other things that we do for waste reduction, like swap shops,
Textile,
textile
Yeah.
donation bins, things like that, just overall waste reduction. And when you have a unit-based, method, it's like everything can ride off of that. Because you're basically saying to somebody, I will save you money. If that's your concern, I will save you money.
Yeah.
And also too, I don't know what your point value is, for RDP. What are they, what's their point
How
value?
many total points they have?
What- no,
I think
what's-
six,
what-
650 maybe.
Oh, yeah, you're like $700 or something,
Yeah.
We're like 2,000.
2,000 a point?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Total, you're like $650 a point.
Yeah.
So when you go to, if you were to move to, pay as you throw, you get an additional 4 points times the 650. So it's like another $2,600 a year that you can do whatever you want with, stuff. You could have literature, you could, you could pay for a swap shop, you could do.
Oh, you can
And-
use, it has to be used towards recycling or?
Yeah,
Waste reduction.
Waste reduction.
There's a whole.
Waste reduction.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so it like makes you, because again, we like it, we see.
It gives a separate fund, yeah.
Yeah.
But see, you don't think we can get an enterprise fund though to put the,
You wouldn't
Bag
need to for
money?
that, yeah, you.
no, but the bag money, to pay the bags. Wouldn't we need that money?
Would we use that money? I guess
That wouldn't that money go in an enterprise fund, so it can't be directed for other services in the
Oh, the
town?
grant money?
No,
the
the
grant money goes
actual,
into it, like the grant.
no, the actual money that people pay you to buy their bags.
Oh, yeah, so that's, I think we talked about this earlier, that's gonna be an internal discussion, you guys need to figure out if that's how you wanna go with it. We can give you towns that have done it, we can give you, other
I
ideas.
just feel like it has to be separate from the general fund.
You could,
or-
I think you could do a revolving fund, which means that you can just keep that money on hand if it's gonna go back into the trash system, but I'm not sure. I'd have to.
But it's
Okay.
earmarked.
So it's
Yeah, so
just
it
like
can't
a.
be used to fund some other
Exactly,
stuff.
exactly.
That's
So
what
it's
I would be
specific
worried about.
purpose.
Yes.
You encourage that, we do, yeah, that's probably the best way to
That's
go.
the way- that's-
So if this sounds good to you, Ron, like, I
Yeah.
feel like a general like kind of way that I could use like these initial like hours is like, cause I kind of see these like. Actually, like a third component that kind of popped out in conversations. We have the environmental, we have the financial, and then there's just also these like kind of like. Other like general like fairness talking
Yes.
points, all of these kind of like.
Yes.
I think all these
That will
talking
work.
points like fit into one of those three categories.
Okay.
So if I start like consolidating, and we also start thinking, but I'll kind of like put my thoughts together and share things and analysis around like. What these kind of resources might look like and talking points to share with
Okay.
whoever you feel like
Yeah.
might be privy to it.
Good.
And that's like the
Great.
initial way to go
Yeah.
ahead.
And hopefully this was, I hope this was a value.
Oh, sure, it's really
Amazing.
helpful.
What a tremendous resource. Thank you.
Right back at you.
We do.
It's awesome that
Wow.
people in the town are like passionate about this stuff and it's like. I
We're
said,
we're
it's not
drowning
like
in
it's-
data is the problem. We're just drowning. I mean, you're more on top of it than I am. I look at all these contracts and I'm just like, how are we going to figure this out?
And it's daunting too, because
Yes.
we don't, it's just all the strength in numbers and we see more of the stuff than you do. And we see the waste reduction initiatives and like what we see out there as like trending and stuff like that. So that's the relationship that you're building here too, because this is ongoing. Brian's gonna come back to you guys and be like, hey, did you ever think about this?
Yeah, it won't
You
just
know?
bother you about pay as you throw. It'll be
Yeah.
compost and reuse and all that.
Oh, good.
stuff.
Big one.
Business card?
This is a biggie.
No, I need to get, but I can write down my email.
You're
Okay.
positioning yourself to be, you're in a good, I think you're in a good spot. I really do. I mean, you guys have really, I wasn't just trying to buddy your bread here. You really have done a lot to get ahead of the curve. Not everybody's doing
I
the,
feel like you're helping us funnel it down. I think that's what Rebecca needs. She needs us to come down to, yeah.
Round level?
We have a lot of great ideas, like we said, and we have a lot of good conversations, but there hasn't really been a determination as to what you want to see.
So
Thank
it's
you.
very hard to try and get something crafted in terms of a proposal
Right.
that you'll get
And-
out there.
Just to go back real quick to what you said at the very beginning is like you called it a plan, but sort of like a time bound plan.
yeah,
You gotta kind of rein us in, I think.
yeah, yeah. Well, I look at it like, if you guys are gonna, I think if you shoot for the pay-as-you-throw adoption thing, because what we would do then is as soon as you, say you adopted, let's say you adopted pay-as-you-throw in November, okay, I'm just throwing it out there,
Okay.
okay? We would immediately go in and open up the pay-as-you-throw grant for you guys to buy the carts. Like, it's usually an on-cycle thing, but because we see it as such a high priority, we go off cycle. And we fund all year long on this grant. So we wouldn't have you apply for the for the carts until you're settled and adopted on the pay-as-you-throw concept. And what you would do is in your town council, you'd say, you'd pick it, you'd adopt, but you'd say, this program's going live at X date. And I don't know what that it would probably make sense to do it along with to do it with the contract, right? You know?
Yeah, so the current contract ends at the end of fiscal 26.
Yeah, and listen, that's probably further out than you'd want to, but I think town folk might accept it a little bit. Yeah, I got a year and a half to get my act together and, all right, it's a year and a half away. It's not being thrown in our face.
Right.
Yeah.
Let them scream for 6 months about
Yeah.
who's ever gonna scream, let them get it out, like.
And then all of a sudden, and then here's the thing, like you start and then you do, you roll out, because then because there's a whole bunch of other things that need to get done too, like, you get a bag contract with Waste Zero. You go to local stores and you tell them that can you please start carrying them? You
Yeah.
carry them up at town hall.
Yeah.
You start to engage in your conversation with Cascade, because you got to get on their schedule.
Okay.
You have a whole thing. So a lot of things need to get done after this. So that's why the sooner the better on the plan decision.
Select board decision is.
Yeah.
the first thing. Okay.
As soon as you decide on that, everything else can
Okay.
follow suit, the appropriation of the funds, like I said, they have to manufacture the carts. They have to get a database, they have to get your assessors database to know the addresses they're delivering to. Usually they don't do it until the good weather. They'll never deliver in the winter. So it's like all of a sudden you're dealing with these chunks,
Yeah.
big chunks. So that's why I think, say you adopt it this year. And then you say, okay, and it is going to happen upon the
Yeah.
contract renewal.
Yeah.
Now it's a year and a half out. Now everything can
Everything
come
starts
that.
getting scheduled.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's a better way to
Talk
go.
About pay as you throw concepts. Does it have to be bags or can it just be an annual fee?
So an annual fee, it can be, it's what we call modified pay as you throw.
Yeah.
So there's communities out there that will charge a fixed fee for this 35-gallon cart and you can fill it. We find that sort of semi-acceptable in our model of what we think is good, because what it is if you're taking the unit based out of it.
We talked about this earlier.
Exactly, so what you're doing is I'll tell you the complaints you'll get. If you go to an annual fee,
Yep.
even if it's very reasonable, grandma who's by herself and throws away 16 gallons a week, I think you said like your dad, right? He's gonna go, I don't use 35 a week. What are you dinging my property tax for?
Yeah.
And that's the complaint you'll get there. So we'll do it. And by the way, if you do it, we don't give you as many points on the grant, but the bottom line is, we find it better just to go with the unit based,
Yeah.
and the bag is the proof of that. The bag does a lot. It's a visual.
Mhm.
It proves that you bought, it's
Yeah.
currency, really. It's
Yeah.
like you don't get a.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but you could execute it that way. It's
Yeah, it may not make sense, but I was just curious.
it's not unheard of. It happens quite frequently, actually. It's just, and you know why it does is because people think that for some reason they associate bags with a hassle. And again, it's just really not.
I think Danvers, just went to a fee-based
Yeah,
program and that's why I thought of it. So-
yeah. Some people do that. And then, you fill it up and then you have to do some kind of sticker that proves that you bought,
Oxford tried that.
now,
Did
because
not work.
the presence of again, unless you're automatically billing everybody.
Yeah.
Because if you're automatically billing everybody, then that becomes a whole new, there's another subset of people that will complain about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna go on tax bill or some bill that you're gonna send out and people are gonna pay it.
Yeah, and in fact, it's a good way to contrast and be like, we're not just billing you arbitrarily.
Right.
I mean, think about it. If you owned a house in Maine
Yeah.
and you brought all your crap up to Maine and you threw it out there, you technically pay $0 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say we don't like to see trash move, but it gives people some autonomy there,
Yeah.
or,
Choices.
bring it to your business or whatever, that's.
It's just, I give them too many ideas.
No, I mean, I wouldn't put that as a talking point. I'm just saying,
Right.
that's when you're having like a regular casual conversation with somebody and they're like,
Okay. Well, I think we,
Yeah, that was great.
done what we need to do right now. And then we need to just see what you're gonna throw together,
Yep,
right?
yep. I wish I had a business card. But I can, do you mind
Touch
forwarding
base.
my email or, yeah, awesome.
Right.
Touch base with a summary of next steps, and what we're gonna do and more.
We're in touch. We'll see you tomorrow too, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you have any relatives who are a doctor? Could you remind me very strongly of somebody?
No.
Same
Can I get a
speech
motion?
pattern.
Oh, really?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay,
Aye. 7:41.
yes, thank you. Okay,